When a town loses its industry, its young people leave. The shops close one by one, the tax base shrinks, and the schools empty. And most people accept this as the natural order of decline. But in Ocean County, New Jersey, a township that had 38,000 residents in 1980 now has more than 135,000. It did not attract a tech campus or a military base. It attracted a rabbi carrying 14 students and an idea the world considered impossible. The pattern is this. Orthodox Jewish communities have been quietly buying into the towns nobody else wants. And then they win. On a Thursday afternoon in Lakewood, New Jersey, the air smells like yeast and sugar. Kosher bakeries along the main commercial road stack challahs 5 deep in their windows. Young mothers push double strollers past Judaica shops with silver candelabras in the display cases. Men in dark suits walk between study halls with the quick, purposeful stride of people who know exactly where they are going and when they need to arrive. The Lakewood Shopper, one of several flourishing community weeklies, runs more than 170 pages of adverts. Kosher Chinese restaurants, kitchen remodelers, travel agencies, wedding halls. Every page speaks of a community not just surviving, but expanding at a pace that defies every assumption about small-town America. The median age here is 21.7 years. In the rest of Ocean County, that number is 42.7. This is not a retirement community or a college town. This is something else entirely. And the question that hangs over every street corner, every new housing development, every crowded yeshiva hallway is simple. What do Orthodox Jews see in a place like this that everyone else has missed? The answer begins in 1943. A Lithuanian rabbi named Aharon Kotler arrived in Lakewood with a vision that most Jewish leaders in America thought was delusional. Kotler had survived the destruction of European Jewish life. He had led a yeshiva in the town of Kletsk, in what is now Belarus. Most of his 300 students had perished in the Holocaust. He carried with him the weight of everything that had been lost and an almost stubborn belief that it could be rebuilt. He needed a quiet place, somewhere removed from the noise and distractions of New York City, but close enough to reach it. Lakewood had once been a fashionable winter resort. The Rockefellers and the Goulds had kept estates here in the late 1800s. Grand hotels lined the lakefront. But by the 1940s, the glamour had faded. The hotels stood half empty. The town was affordable and overlooked. Nobody else wanted it for what Kotler needed. He founded Beth Midrash Govoha in a modest building with just 13 students. It was the first kollel in the United States. A kollel is a center of advanced religious study for married men who receive a modest stipend while studying Torah full-time. The idea that men would devote their entire adult lives to religious scholarship in America was considered absurd. Marshall Sklare, the influential Jewish sociologist, wrote in 1955 that the history of Orthodox Judaism in the United States could be written in terms of institutional decay. He believed it was a tradition that would quietly fade in the New World. That prediction could not have been more wrong. Aaron Kotler, the founder's grandson, has spoken publicly about what Lakewood was like when he was a child. He recalls that there were only 3 Orthodox children in the entire township. He once visited Brooklyn for the Sabbath and saw 30 or 40 children gathered in an afternoon group. He thought it must be the International Convention of Orthodox Jewish Children. He did not know there were that many in the entire world. The mechanism that turned Lakewood from a fading resort town into one of the fastest growing municipalities in America is not wealth. It is not politics. It is religious law. Every Friday at sundown, a 25-hour period begins in which observant Jews cannot drive. They cannot use electricity. They cannot carry objects outside the home unless an ERUV, a symbolic boundary made of wire and posts, surrounds the neighborhood. This means everything a family needs must exist within walking distance. The synagogue, the school, the kosher grocery, the mikveh, the bakery. This single requirement produces, by accident, exactly what urban planners spend decades trying to engineer. Dense, walkable, mixed-use neighborhoods where people know their neighbors because they pass them on foot every single week. The yeshiva sits at the center like a gravity well. Young men come to study, they marry, they stay. Their children fill the schools. New families arrive to be near the institutions. About 1,000 new families move to Lakewood every year. The same blueprint appeared in Orange County, New York. In the 1970s, Grand Rebbe Joel Teitelbaum led a group of Satmar Hasidic followers to a remote wooded area 55 miles north of Manhattan. They called it Kiryas Joel. The village grew 63% between 2010 and 2020 alone, from just over 20,000 to nearly 33,000. It appeared almost overnight on the map of America's fastest-growing places. In Postville, Iowa, 30 minutes from the nearest fast food restaurant, Lubavitcher Hasidim from Brooklyn arrived to run the largest kosher meat plant in the country. A farming town that had been bleeding residents suddenly counted 30 ethnicities among its growing population. The pattern repeats. Find a place that others have abandoned. Build the institutional infrastructure first. Let the community grow around it like a living thing. But what does it feel like from the inside? Thursday in Lakewood is preparation day. The rhythms of the week build toward the Sabbath like a tide pulling inward. At the Township Shabbos warehouse, the largest kosher food pantry in New Jersey, volunteers sort and pack boxes of chicken, fish, challah, and staples. More than 1,250 families in Lakewood depend on these deliveries for their Sabbath meals. Dedicated drivers load their cars and fan out across the township. By Friday afternoon, every box will have reached its destination. This is not optional charity. It is structural. The median household income in Lakewood is roughly $44,700. The county average is closer to $65,000, but the average household here has 5.12 people compared to 2.61 in the rest of Ocean County. These are large families on modest incomes. The mutual aid networks, the food pantries, the interest-free loan societies, the clothing exchanges. These are not extras. They are load-bearing walls. One Township Shabbos delivery driver describes the work simply. He says every box means another family has what it needs. He drives his route like any other delivery driver would. No ceremony, no recognition. The dignity of the process, he explains, is the point. Late in the evening, the study halls of Beth Midrash Govoha are still full. Rows of paired desks stretch the length of enormous rooms. Young men sit across from each other, rocking gently over open volumes of the Talmud, tracing lines of text with their fingers, debating in hushed voices that occasionally rise into something closer to argument. As of 2025, the Yeshiva enrolls over 9,000 full-time male students across 74 affiliated institutions. This makes it one of the largest post-secondary institutions of any kind in New Jersey. The sound inside these halls is unlike anything in a university library. It is the sound of 2,000 simultaneous conversations happening at once, a low roar of study that continues until well past midnight. Friday afternoon arrives, and the acceleration is visible. Bakeries push out their final trays. Kosher butchers wrap their last cuts. The streets fill with a particular kind of urgency that has nothing to do with panic and everything to do with purpose. Then sundown comes, and then silence. The commercial streets empty. The car parks go still. Families walk to synagogue in clusters, fathers holding the hands of small children, older boys walking in groups of 3 or 4. For 25 hours, a city of more than 135,000 people enters a different mode of being. A shopkeeper on one of the main commercial streets explains that every customer who walks through his door is also a neighbor. There is no anonymity in Lakewood, he says. If you sell someone a bad piece of fish on Thursday, you will sit next to him in synagogue on Saturday morning. What strikes you first in the residential streets is the children. The school district provides busing to students enrolled at 74 yeshivas. Children on scooters line the pavements. Pairs of girls in matching uniforms walk to school carrying book bags nearly as large as they are. In Kiryas Joel, the numbers are even more striking. The largest single age group in the village is children under 5, numbering more than 7,000 and comprising over 19% of the total population. More than half of the village is under 18. These are not communities in decline. They are communities in acceleration. And as Lakewood fills, the pattern radiates outward. Young Orthodox families seeking more space and affordable homes have moved into Jackson Township, just across the border. Kosher grocery chains and Judaica stores have opened branches on the edges of Tom's River to serve both communities. The same thing is happening in Orange County, where developers have cast their gaze further north toward the foot of the Catskills, looking for quiet villages where the land is still cheap. And in newer destinations far from the traditional northeastern corridor, Orthodox families have begun arriving in Orlando, drawn by affordable housing and a growing kosher infrastructure. But growth at this speed does not happen in a vacuum. The expansion that transformed Lakewood from a fading township into the 5th largest municipality in New Jersey has produced real friction with neighboring communities. Residents of nearby towns point to overdevelopment, where multifamily dwellings have replaced single-family houses and natural woodland. They raise concerns about a public school system under fiscal strain and about a township that has changed beyond recognition within a single generation. The phrase Lakewood-style development has become shorthand in local political debates. In Tom's River, yard signs appeared on front lawns reading, "Do not sell" and "Tom's River strong." The message was not subtle. The economics are genuinely complicated. Tax-exempt properties owned by private schools, charities, and religious institutions make up 8% of Lakewood's total assessed value, according to county tax data. In Tom's River, that figure is 1.5%. The public school system serves a shrinking share of the township's children, while the municipality funds busing for thousands of Yeshiva students. Residents outside the Orthodox community feel they are funding a system they do not benefit from. The community responds that its members pay taxes, support local businesses, and generate the economic activity that rescued Lakewood from decades of decline. Both sides have numbers that support their position. Neither side is entirely wrong. In Postville, Iowa, the tensions took a different and more painful form. When the old high-grade meatpacking plant went under, a Lubavitcher businessman named Shalom Rubashkin bought it and transformed it into a glatt kosher processing facility. The town was saved from economic collapse, but the cultural gulf was enormous. Some Postville residents had never met a Jewish person or heard a foreign language outside of Spanish class. Then in 2008, a massive federal immigration raid at the plant led to the arrest of nearly 400 undocumented workers. The plant went into bankruptcy. Its chief executive was convicted. The Jewish community shrank by roughly half, from about 100 families to around 50. A Postville town councilor named Bob Schroeder said plainly that the newcomers had saved the town from what he called a slow death. He said the community had been reinvigorated, that there was life, that he had made many friends from all over the world, and they were very good people. His words carried no romance and no agenda, just an honest accounting of what he saw with his own eyes. The narrator of this story does not resolve the tension because it remains unresolved. These communities bring growth, institutional investment, and new life to places that were losing all three. They also bring change that is rapid, visible, and culturally unfamiliar to the people who were there first. In Tom's River, interfaith dialogues have been initiated between long-standing residents and Orthodox leaders to find common ground. Some places are finding a way through, others are still searching. The story has no ending because the story is still being written. Saturday morning in Lakewood. The streets carry that particular silence that comes not from absence, but from intention. Families walk in small groups toward their synagogues. A father holds the hand of a boy who cannot be more than 4. An older man in a black coat walks slowly, unhurried, his prayer book tucked under his arm. The bakeries are shuttered. The car parks are full, but no engine turns over. 82 years ago, a man who had lost nearly everything arrived in a town that was losing the same. He had 14 students and an idea the rest of the world considered impossible. His grandson has said that he was completely countercultural. He was a revolutionary who believed that traditional Judaism could not only survive in America, but flourish. That yeshivas could be built here. That a life organized entirely around study and faith could take root in soil that had never held it before. The streets on this Saturday morning hold no monuments, no plaques, no declarations of what was accomplished. Only the sound of shoes on pavement and children calling to one another in a language that was supposed to disappear. The oldest residents remember when this was a town of boarding houses and empty hotels. The youngest will never know it as anything other than home. The shoes keep moving. The voices do not stop.